So this is going to be an Act 4 review of Romeo and Juliet. So scene 1 begins with Friar Lawrence, and Paris is visiting him. Paris is talking to him about his upcoming wedding to Juliet, and he is essentially expressing that he knows this wedding is last minute, but it's very important that they rush the marriage because he knows Juliet is kind of been a little down. She's been depressed. They all believe that it is her mourning over her cousin Tybalt's death. So he's like, yes, it's really important we rush this marriage because her health depends on it. And that's when Juliet shows up. And Juliet is here, obviously, to talk about Friar Lawrence about getting out of her marriage to Paris, right? So the two of them are kind of like looking at each other like, well, this is awkward. And meanwhile, Paris is just kind of flirting with Juliet. So Juliet finally is like, Paris, I really want to have confession with Friar Lawrence. So Paris is like, okay, bet. And he leaves. So then Juliet kind of breaks down a little and she's like, Friar Lawrence, if you can't help me get out of this marriage, I am going to kill myself. She's very distraught. She's upset. And Friar Lawrence can tell that she means it. So he's like, okay, I have an idea. And he gives her this sleeping potion. And he says, basically, this sleeping potion will make you fall into a sleep so deep that people will think you're dead. They will find your body and they're going to assume you're dead. So he tells her the night before your wedding, take this sleeping potion. They're going to find your body and then they're going to put you in this big tomb or mausoleum thing, right? So the Capulets have a lot of money, so they have a very big fancy mausoleum where they put their dead. So he's like, they're going to put you in there, and I will write a letter to Romeo, and I will tell him to come get you. So this is the plan he offers Juliet. And Juliet is like, okay, let's do it. Meanwhile, in scene 2, we have Juliet's father and mother and the nurse. They're all making plans for the wedding. They're finalizing arrangements, stuff like that. And Juliet shows up, and she's like, to her father, she says, Friar Lawrence told me to apologize to you, to go along with the wedding, and I'm going to. I'm sorry I was ungrateful. She's essentially like kissing up to him, but obviously she doesn't mean this, right? And they obviously get very happy, and her father actually says, I know the wedding was supposed to be on Thursday, which is in 2 days, but since you're doing so well, let's have the wedding tomorrow. So they're pushing things forward a day. For scene 3, we have the nurse hanging out with Juliet. This is later in the day. Juliet is having the nurse help her pick out an outfit for the wedding tomorrow. She wants to look nice, obviously, so they're picking out clothes and stuff like that. And then the mom pops in. She's like, can I help too? And then Juliet's kind of like, actually, I think I have everything finalized. Why don't you two leave me alone? She's like, I want to spend the night praying and repenting my sins before my wedding tomorrow. So they leave her alone. So then Juliet is like, okay, it's time to take this sleeping potion. But she starts to get really anxious and she's like, what if this potion is actually poisonous and Friar Lawrence is trying to get rid of me to cover up the secret marriage he performed without my parents' permission? So first she's really worried about that. And then she's like, no, he's a good guy. He wouldn't do that. But then she starts thinking, I'm going to wake up in this mausoleum that's sealed shut. What if there's not enough air in there and I die? So then she's freaking out about that. And then she's like, I'm going to be waking up in a room full of my dead ancestors. Tybalt, who was just murdered, is going to be in there. What if their spirits haunt me and make me go crazy? So then she's worrying about that. So obviously she's freaking out a little bit, but then she's like, you know what? It's going to be okay. I'm just going to take the potion. I trust that Romeo will come find me. So she does. She takes it. Scene 4. We have the Capulets again finalizing things for the marriage. They are kind of bossing around a bunch of servants, but they're in a very good mood because they're like, things are on the up. So the Capulets, they're almost done. And Juliet's father is like to the nurse, you know what? I think it's almost time. Why don't you go wake up Juliet and start getting her ready? which leads to scene 5. So the nurse goes into Juliet's room, and at first she thinks Juliet's just sleeping. So she's like kind of like joking around, trying to get her to wake up, and then she realizes something is wrong, and she calls for help. And in comes Juliet's mother, and then eventually her father, and even Paris. And at this point, they figure out that she seems to be dead. So they're all very upset, obviously. They're crying. They are obviously very distraught, right? They think Juliet is dead. So then Friar Lawrence walks in and he sees what's going on and he's like, you know what, guys, I know you're upset, but you have to look at it this way. This is the work of the Lord and we have to just respect his wishes. So they're all kind of still upset, but they're like, you're right. And we have everybody here already. We have all these arrangements made. So instead of a wedding, we are going to now plan for a funeral. And that is how scene 5 ends. So some essential questions to consider as you move into Act 5 are, first, what message do you think Shakespeare is trying to get across through this play? And then second, how could the outcome of the play have been prevented?